Alif, Laam, Meem. ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربي زدني علما. أما بعد, my dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I'd like to welcome you all, brothers and sisters, to this wonderful show called Alif, Laam, Meem. This is the show, brothers and sisters, that gives you the opportunity, the chance to, inshallah ta'ala, perfect the recitation of the Qur'an. And how do you do this? By simply, inshallah, calling in live into the studios with the number 0203 515 0757. You then recite, inshallah ta'ala, and thereafter we provide you with a live feedback. And this is the beauty of the show, that we listen to your recitation, we provide you with a live feedback, so that you take it on board, inshallah, there and then, and try and rectify your recitation as bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So for those who are living abroad, you can also tune in, you can also participate in the show, and do call us via the WhatsApp number that is placed at the bottom of your screens. Now today, brothers and sisters, we are continuing our recitation from the Surah Ya Sin. And today's chosen verses are from verse number 20 to verse number 22, inshallah. So the Surah Ya Sin, verse number 20 to verse number 22. As usual, brothers and sisters, what we do first and foremost is I recite these particular verses, inshallah, so that you listen to those recitation and you familiarize yourself with the recitation, inshallah ta'ala. And thereafter, I go through these verses, highlighting, outlining rules, tajweed rules that we need to remember, we need to note when reciting these particular verses. And thereafter, we then open the floor to listen to your recitation, which is the main part of the show. So be ready, brothers and sisters. Inshallah ta'ala, keep yourself free to take part in the show, inshallah ta'ala, and really try and rectify the recitation of the Qur'an. So let's begin with the recitation. Have your mushaf in front of you, or you can follow with the mushaf that is on the screen, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. Sadaqallahu al-Azim wa barakallahu feek. These are the verses of the beautiful Surah Ya Sin. Now, brothers and sisters, what we'll be doing now is looking at these particular verses, inshallah, analyzing them as much as possible, so that you note these rules down bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And also, brothers and sisters, while I do go through them, try your best, inshallah, to write these rules down, to memorize them, and most importantly, to familiarize yourself with these rules. So we begin, brothers and sisters, with the letter Waw. Now, with the letter Waw, it's a lip letter. We need to know this first and foremost, that with every single letter that is in the Arabic alphabet, okay, they are part of certain groups, such as the lip letters, such as the throat letters, such as the letters that are coming from the nose in particular situations. So we need to know this first and foremost. Thereafter, we need to also know that these letters have something called makhraj or makharij, okay, which is the plural, exiting point or point of departure. How is it exactly recited? Okay, so with the letter Waw, it's a very common letter where a lot of mistakes can take place with this letter. Now, the most common mistake is where reciters, they change the shape of the lips when reciting the letter Waw. The correct way is to minimize the movement of the lips. Okay, we don't expand too much like waja, wa. That's incorrect. Okay, you control it. What? Yes, you make the circle shape. However, it shouldn't be too big. It shouldn't be too expanding, inshallah. So instead of waja, it should be wa. Waja. If you look at my lips carefully, you can see it's a very small movement. Waja and not waja. We then move on to the next letter, just after, which is the letter Jim. Now, the letter Jim, brothers and sisters, is in the form of mad, okay? Because after the letter of mad, which is the Alif, you have the Hamza, okay, in the same word, and therefore, this becomes mad, you stretch. Now, the main part is not just the mad, it is also the pronunciation during the mad, and this is very important, and we need everyone who's listening, inshallah, take note of this. That when you are doing the mad, brothers and sisters, make sure that, again, the makhraj of the letter does not change whilst you are doing the mad. And this is a very common mistake. When reciters are doing 4 counts or 6 counts, during that, the pronunciation changes. For example, waja. Okay, you can hear it very carefully. Ja. That's not correct. That's incorrect because Jim is not a full mouth letter. Again, we need to control. We need to minimize that. Waja, ja, not ja. That's incorrect. So bear that in mind. وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ. So min aqsa. So here, brothers and sisters, if you look at the word min, it has the letter noon next to it. Well, next to the letter mim. Now, the noon, if you look at carefully, has a sakina on top, followed by a letter which is known as the letter Hamza or Alif. Now, because of this, we recite with the rule of idhar. It is called idhar. وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ. We don't say وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ. We do not do ghunna at all. It's very important that we keep this in mind, inshallah. رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى. Now, before we move on to the other rule of nun sakin wa tanween, I want to emphasize on the rule of ra. Okay, a lot of reciters, we tend to neglect this. Okay, we tend to forget this. So keep that in mind, brothers and sisters, that rule, the letter ra, it may be a letter, but it holds a lot of weight in terms of its pronunciation. For example, the letter ra, when it has a fatha on top of it, you say ra. We don't say ra. Okay, that's a very common mistake. So we don't say rajulun. It's rajulun. Make it heavy. Make sure that the lips, that your tongue is lifting and is touching the top tooth at the same time. Okay, this letter ra holds a very unique quality. Okay, like all the letters have qualities. They are known as sifat in Arabic. Now, ra in particular holds a very unique quality, which is known as takrar. It means a reoccurring sound. Okay, so we say ra, rajul. So when you say the letter ra, you can hear that reoccurring sound. And this, brothers and sisters, it's only for the letter ra. So we say وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ, not rajulun. Okay, rajulun yas'a. And then, brothers and sisters, if you look at the letter ayn, now the letter ayn also has a mad, but this mad is different from the mad in the letter jim. Nevertheless, the main point is not the mad. Okay, again, it's the way you pronounce it. We don't say yes, it's a blatant, a clear hamza that you're reciting. So rajulun yas'a. Again, you give the emphasis, you give the sharpness to that letter ayn, inshallah. Then we say Ya qawmi ittabi'ul mursalin. Again, the letter ra, brothers and sisters. Now, here, okay, it might look a bit different. What is the difference? That the letter ra has a sakina on top of it. Okay, the letter ra has a sakina on top of it. But does that mean that we recite without full mouth? The answer is no. Okay, so with the letter ra, it has in particular 7 categories when it's made full mouth. So 7 categories, especially in the style that we recite, Hafs, Al-Asim, which majority, or in fact everyone, when you're reciting, you recite in this style. So mursalin, we say mur, we don't say mursalin, because the letter ra has a fatha before it, and that's the main part. Okay, yes, the sakina does play a part, but the main aspect of this is the fatha. If there was no fatha, then we would not recite it with a full mouth. If it was kasra, it will be empty mouth. Okay? If it was dhamma, so here it's the dhamma. So with dhamma and fatha, we recite with the full mouth. Mur. And we don't say mursalin. Keep that in mind. Ittabi'u. Now, before we move on, I want to clarify here, brothers and sisters, this is not a dhamma. So please make sure that you don't say uttabi'u. It is ittabi'u. There is a kasra there. Okay, this is a grammatical element here why we have a kasra, not a dhamma or a fatha. Okay, so just to let everyone know that here we say ittabi'u and not attabi'u or uttabi'u. Bear that in mind. Man la yas'alukum. Okay, now when you're joining the Meem to the letter Lam, make sure, brothers and sisters, that you do not, number one, hold on to the letter Lam. Malla. And number two, which is the main one, that you do not make the Lam full mouth. Okay, now I want to pause here and I want to elaborate on this point, the letter Lam. Now, like the letter Ra, again, the letter Lam has a lot of responsibilities, it holds a lot of weight. Okay, so bear that in mind, brothers and sisters, that when it comes to the letter Lam, we need to know this carefully, that the letter Lam is only full mouth in the word of Allah. For example, Allahu Samad. We don't say Allahu Samad. No, Allahu Samad. Okay, so in an ordinary Arabic word, okay, like the word La in Arabic, it has the letter Lam within it. But does that mean that we apply the full mouth? The answer is no. Okay, we say Malla. Very clear cut, simple. We don't say Malla. In all the other recitations, this is the case as well. Only the Lam in the word of Allah is made full mouth. So again, when you're reading Malla, very subtle. Okay, don't put too much pressure. And this is again another thing, that when we are reciting the Qur'an, wherever it may be, whatever rule you're reciting, whatever letter you're reciting, word, sentence, make sure that number one, you don't overdo it. Okay, we don't do too much of that rule. And number two, the second point is we don't do too less. Okay, we should be moderate. Okay, again, it comes down to being disciplined and controlling our recitation. So once again, مَن لَا يَسْأَلُكُمْ. Then, أَجْرَوْا وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. أَجْرَوْا. Here, brothers and sisters, we have the rule of idgham ma'al ghunna. Now again, idgham is a very broad rule. It has in fact more than 5 rules within that idgham. Okay, now I'm not going to go through all of them, but one thing I want to elaborate on is the rule here. أَجْرًا وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. Now, we need to understand that idgham in Arabic, it means to merge, it means to connect. Okay, now if we use this in the rule, in the context of tajweed, we are joining one letter to another. We are merging one letter to another letter. Now, what are we merging here? Ajra, it's tara merging with the letter waw. Okay, no other letters are merging except from those 2 letters. Having that being said, okay, besides the merging aspect of this rule, it is also important to know that we are reciting with ghunnah. Now, ghunnah, what is that? For those who don't know, ghunnah is simply allowing the sound to come through our nose in certain situations. Okay, so allowing the sound to come from our nose. For example, amma, anna, manna. Okay, ajran. These are ghunnah examples that I am giving. So the rule is that if there is a tanween or there's a nun sakina on top of a letter, again tanween is double fatha, double kasra and double dhamma, and after that you have the letter waw or the letter ya, the letter noon or the letter meem. Those 4 letters we apply ghunnah. أَجْرًا وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. And this puts me perfectly onto my next example, which is the Meem Sakina rule. Okay, now again, to clarify to those who are listening and watching at home, brothers and sisters, that when it comes to the rules, okay, Noon Sakina, Meem Sakina, we need to understand these are 2 different things. Okay, Noon Sakina has its own rules, which is ikhfa, idgham, idhar, iqlab. Similarly, Meem Sakina also has its rules. You have ikhfa shafawi, you have idgham shafawi, you have idhar shafawi. Okay, so we need to understand this. So when we see the Noon Sakina or when we see the Meem Sakina, we don't automatically apply ghunnah. And this is a misunderstanding, brothers and sisters, that we have. So we need to know that yes, they have their own rules, but from amongst the rules, some are ghunnah and some are not. Okay, so this rule here, brothers and sisters, muhtadun, ajran wa hum muhtadun. It has number one, the mim sakina. So automatically, we need to program this. That okay, we need to put aside the ikhfa, the iqlab, the idhar, and we need to now move on to the mim sakina rules. And what is that? That is ikhfa shafawi, that is idgham al-shafawi, and that is idhar al-shafawi. So here, brothers and sisters, we have the rule of idgham al-shafawi. How? Because there is a mim sakina followed by another mim. Okay, so if you look at this carefully, ajra wa hum, in the word hum, the last letter is a mim sakina, and the first letter of the next word, which is muhtadun, it's the letter mim. And this is why, number one, it is idgham al-shafawi, and number two, we recite with the ghunna. Ajra wa hum muhtadun. We then move on. وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي. So, وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي, on the letter ayn, we do not bounce. We don't say أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي. Make sure, brothers and sisters, this is very important, that we do not bounce on any letter that we see. Okay, this is a very common mistake, that when we see a sakina on a letter, we automatically want to bounce on it. Okay, again, this is not correct. We need to know that there is a separate rule for that, and they have their own letters for that. So we don't recite how we want, okay, and just randomly stretch on letters or randomly do qalqala on letters, inshallah. Fatarani. Now I want to focus on this particular word, brothers and sisters, this word fatara. Now the letter fa is an empty letter, the letter ta is a full mouth letter, and so is the letter ra. Now when we are reciting, naturally we will, because we're trying to make the ta full mouth and the ra full mouth, we will make the fa full mouth, but that's not correct. Okay, again, every letter is its own individual letter. No letters will merge, no letters will connect, okay, in terms of the recitation, in terms of the makhraj, because they have their own makhraj and their own sifat. So when you come to these particular words, you need to be very careful and need to slow down. Okay, for example, وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي. I'm reading it fast and I'm not concentrating on which letter I'm reciting, and therefore I'm making all the letters full mouth. So take your time, inshallah. وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَ. Okay, فَطَرَ, not فَطَرَ. Again, be careful, inshallah. Be disciplined with the movement of your lips. Majority of the letters, okay, are coming from the tongue. Okay, in fact, 18 letters. In total, 18 letters, they are recited using the tongue. Okay, meaning the tongue is involved, whether it's touching the top palate, which is touching the lips or the tongue, or whether it's touching the back of the tooth, if there is an involvement of the lips, or of the tongue. Okay, so bear that in mind, inshallah. So when you're reciting the word fatara, be careful, slow down, inshallah. وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. And we will end with this point. تُرْجَعُونَ, the letter jim, to not change the jim to the letter shin. There is no such thing as turja'un. There is no letter as ja. Okay, it's jim or shin. We do not merge. Because when we merge, there are a lot of things that are going wrong here. Number one, we're changing the entire letter. Number two, we're changing the makhraj of the letter. Number three, we are changing the sifat of the letter. And ultimately, we are changing the meaning of that word. Okay, and sometimes it can have a very bad impact on this particular meaning here. So keep that in mind, brothers and sisters, that when you're reciting, inshallah, be careful of what you are reciting and how you are reciting, inshallah. Okay, but there you have it, brothers and sisters, rules that we need to take note of, inshallah ta'ala, be careful of, and ultimately, these are the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we're reciting, yes, to make our recitation better, but also to earn the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we ask Allah to accept it from us, inshallah, and we ask Allah to make this a means for us to enter Jannah bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We now, inshallah, move on to the next part of our part, where we listen to your recitation, inshallah ta'ala, and we provide you with that feedback. So let's take our first caller for today, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Sister Nilufa, you are live in the studios. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Ustadh?
Alhamdulillah, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
When you're ready, sister, you may begin, please.
Inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون.
If you could say that again, please, sister. أجرا.
أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Barakallah fiqh, sister, for your recitation. May Allah bless you and may Allah reward you. Now, sister, when you recited ajaraw, we need to merge, okay? It's not ajaraw, otherwise the merging is not taking place. So, اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. So we need to make it clear that the ra is joining with the letter wow. Now, sister, there is one particular letter that I want you to look at, inshallah ta'ala, which is the letter Ain. When you recited وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعَ, there was a bounce, which I've just done here. Okay, we don't say أَعَ. Now, this could happen because, number one, okay, we might think that Ain is a qalqala letter, or number two, because we're focusing too much on that letter, we're not realizing that we're putting a qalqala on it. Okay, so when you're reciting the letter Ain, make it gentle. Okay, but again, not too soft where it's recited as the letter Hamza. So, وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْ, one sound. Okay, if you say أَعْ, that's two sounds. That's given qalqala. وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي. So keep that in mind, inshallah. Those 2 points, my dear sister. Otherwise, a very good recitation. Barakallah fiqh. Let's swiftly move on to our next caller now, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sister, when you are ready, you may begin, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم
Again, sister, if you could start again, please. وجاء من
من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا
يسعى. You need to stretch, sister. There's a mad.
وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجر وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Barakallah fiqh, sister. So, when you recited the letter Ra, okay, now the letter Ra, sister, you need to make sure that it is being clear. Ajraw. What you're doing, sister, you're restricting the sound. You're saying ajraw. Okay, this is a restriction to the sound. The main thing is that the letter Ra, it's a full mouth letter in this situation. So we need to express this. We need to make it clear. أجروا وهم مهتدون. The other thing is, if you look at the word يسعى, the letter Ain. The letter Ain has a mad. Okay, we can't say يسعى قال يسعى. We need to stretch the minimum of 2 counts, inshallah. Okay, so bear those points in mind, my dear sister, inshallah. But overall, a very good recitation. Barakallah fiqh. Let's move on to our next caller, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Ustadh?
Alhamdulillah, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
You can start when you're ready, please.
Inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون
وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Very good recitation, mashallah, tabarakallah. May Allah bless you, may Allah
السلام
reward
عليكم.
you, and make this a means for you to enter Jannatul Firdaus. Wa jazakillahu khairan. We now move on to our next caller, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. How
How
are
are you
you?
today?
Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. When you're ready, sister, you may begin, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون.
Jazakallah khairan, sister. Two letters to look out for, inshallah. The letter Ain, number one, and the letter Ra. Number one, the letter Ain, ittabi'u. Again, express the sound. Make it clear. Make it sharp. Again, banu qalqala. Ittabi'u. Thereafter, man la yas'alukum ajraw. The letter Ra, sister, we cannot restrict the sound. Okay, as I mentioned to the reciter, that when you're reciting the letter Ra, you need to make it clear. Ajra, ajraw, and not ajraw. Those two letters, may Allah bless you and reward you, my dear sister. Brothers and sisters, inshallah, we will be going for a very, very short break. Inshallah, do stay where you want. Also, try to pick up the phone and take part. I'll see you after then. وجزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. My dear respected brothers and sisters, welcome back to this wonderful show, Alif Laam Meem, the show that gives you the opportunity, brother, sister, young or small, young or old, to learn the Qur'an inshallah ta'ala and to practice it the way it should be practiced and the way it should be recited. Now, brothers and sisters, today we are going through Surah Ya Sin, from verse number 20 to verse number 22 inshallah ta'ala. Many have memorized the surah, many are familiar with this surah. But inshallah ta'ala, let's take the chance to perfect the recitation of the Qur'an. So brothers and sisters, we'll be listening to a recitation, provide you with the feedback. If you want to take part, call us via the numbers that are placed at the bottom of your screens. We now take the caller, Sister Khanum. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Baba, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah. Baba, help me, Baba, please.
Inshallah, when you are ready, you may begin, please.
Inshallah, Baba. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى.
Make sure you don't stretch the jim, sister. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى.
Okay, food. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Barakallah feeki, may Allah bless you, may Allah reward you for your efforts, my dear sister. Now, sister, when you recited rajului, make sure with the letter jim that you do not stretch. Okay, jim does not involve the letter, does not involve the rule of mad. Raju, not rajului. Okay, because what will happen is it will change the meaning of that word, and also the makhraj, okay, will change how it's recited. So rajulu yas'a. So that is one point, inshallah. And the next point is that when you're reciting the letter ayn, ittabi'u, to make sure that the ayn is recited clear and sharp. Ittabi'u, and not u. Okay. Now both letters are huruf halqiyah letters, they are throat letters, but there is a difference between the two. They don't come from the same part of the throat. One is from the middle of the throat and the other is from the bottom of the throat. Okay, so in total there are three sections: the top, the middle and the bottom. Okay, so 2 letters from each of these part. In total 6 letters. So bear that in mind, inshallah, my dear sister, those 2 points. But overall, mashallah, I have to say that you have made very good improvement. Okay, from the beginning of listening to your recitation till now, mashallah, there's been a big change. May Allah bless you, may Allah reward you, and again make this a means for you to enter Jannah bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Jazakallah khairan. We move on to our next caller, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Ustad?
Alhamdulillah, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah, sister, you may start when you are ready, please.
Okay, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون
وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Barakallah fiqh, sister, for your recitation. Now, the word fatara. This word, sister, includes three letters. Fa, ta, and ra. Now, I want you to focus on the letter fa, sister. Okay, with the letter fa, as I mentioned in the briefing, that the letter fa, it's a, number one, a empty letter. Number two, it's a lip letter. Okay, now the reason why it's emphasized here the most, okay, is because it is next to two full mouth letters, and because of the preparation for those two letters, we naturally tend to make the fa become full mouth. That's not correct. Okay, we can't say fatara. It's fatara. Okay, so when you recited, there was a heaviness to that letter. So bear that in mind, sister. This is just one example. There are many where you have a light letter with a full mouth letter, inshallah. So fatara, okay, not fatara and not fatara. Barakallah feekum, may Allah bless you and reward you. We swiftly move on to our next caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, brother?
Alhamdulillah, how are you today?
I'm alright, thank you very much.
Alhamdulillah. When you're ready, you may start, please.
Inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون.
Sister, could you recite that again for me, please? وَجَاءَ مِنْ
وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد
وَمَا لِيَ لَا. You need to stretch that, sister.
وما لي لا.
No. So the letter ya, sister, is not mad. وَمَا لِيَ لَا. Not لِيَ لَا. Okay?
وما لي لا.
Sister, you're stretching. You're saying وَمَا لِيَ لَا. Okay, you're saying ya. It's supposed to be وَمَا لِيَ لَا. لِيَ لَا.
وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Ahsan, Jazakallah khairan. Now, sister, there are a couple of letters to look out for. Okay, these letters are very important letters, especially in the format that they are in. Okay, and inshallah, I'll explain this to the best of my ability, inshallah, and I hope, inshallah, you understand, and everyone, those who are listening. Now, brothers and sisters, you need to understand that when letters are joined next to other letters, we need to be very careful. Okay, and a clear example, fatarani, where the fa is an empty mouth letter, but we make it full mouth because it's next to full mouth letters, and that's not correct. Now, sister, when you recited aqasa, if you look at the letter alif, okay, just not even looking at it, but we know that the letter alif is an empty letter. Secondly, if you look at the letter alif, it is joining with the letter qaf. But does that mean that we make the alif full mouth? The answer is no. Okay, we don't say waja'a min aqasa. Aqa. No, if you look at my lips, you see it's closed. Aqa. Waja'a min aqa. Aqa. And then when we go to the qaf, we then expand it. Okay, again, it comes to being careful, inshallah, and controlling the recitation. The next letter to look out for is the letter ha. Okay, muh. We don't say muhtadun. Okay, the letter ha, it's a clear letter. Muhtadun. And we say ihdina. We don't say ihdina, or we don't say ihdina. Again, there's a difference. One is the heavy and one is the light. Both are throat letters, but again, they are split into their sections. So one is from the middle of the throat, which is ha with the letter ayn, and the other one it's ha, which is paired or coupled with the letter hamza. Okay, so muhtadun. Just let it come out naturally. Okay, don't emphasize too much, and again, don't be too lenient as well. So muhtadun, and the last letter, وَمَا لِيَ لَا. The lam should be stretched because of the mad. And this is another important point, my dear respected brothers and sisters, that when it comes to the word la, again, we might think, yes, we're just adding a mad on, but it has its own meaning. La is a word by itself in Arabic. Okay? If we say la, it gives a different meaning. Okay? And vice versa. If it's short and you stretch it, it gives one meaning. If it's long and you shorten it, it gives another meaning. So, وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي, and not وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي. It's completely different. So bear that in mind, inshallah. Very important points for yourself and for everyone who will benefit from these. Jazakillahu khairan, my dear sister. We move on to our next caller, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam, Ustad. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah, Ustad.
Barakallah fi. You can start, please, when you're ready.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى.
Again, sister.
وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم.
رجل, again, رجل يسعى, not يسعى. Don't bounce.
رجل يسعى.
Better.
قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Jazakillahu khairan, my dear sister. 2 letters. Number 1 is the letter Sin. Okay, رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى, يَسْعَى. If you look at me carefully, you can see, again, it's very strong on the sound, but yet not heavy. There's a difference, okay? We don't make it full mouth, but we make it clear. We make it strong. يَسْعَى. At the same time, we do not do qalqala. We don't say رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى, يَسْعَى. Again, if you listen carefully, رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى, 1 sound, okay, not 2 sounds. Number 2 is مَنْ لَا يَسْأَلُكُمْ أَجْرًا. Okay, now the way you recited aj, you held on to the sound of the letter ra. Now the letter ra, sister, yes, it is a full mouth letter, but at the same time, that if it has a sakina on top of it, if it has the letter jim, if you look at it, if it has a sakina on top, you do qalqala, aj. Okay, not the letter ra, the letter jim. Ajra, you bounce on it. We don't hold on to the sound of the letter jim. Okay, so make sure you keep that in mind, my dear sister. But overall, mashallah, a very, very good recitation. Barakallah feek. May Allah reward you. We move on to our next caller now, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Ustad?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well, sister. How are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
You can start when you're ready.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم.
Ittabi'u. If you stop here, okay, and you carry on from here, you say ittabi'u, not tabi'u, okay?
اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Barakallahu feeki. May Allah bless you and reward you and make this a means for you to enter Jannah, inshallah ta'ala, without any account. Ameen. Now, sister, when you recited your isti'adha, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Number one is not shaitan. We don't stretch here. Okay? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. There is no bouncing, there is no mad here. Okay, very clear. Shaytanir rajim. The next thing is the letter ta. We don't, again, restrict the sound of ta. We don't say shaytanir rajim. Ta. Make the tongue lift up. Okay, make it heavy. Make sure that you are emphasizing on tafkhim and isti'la. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. And again, do not make the lips oval. We then move on to the letter Ain, sister. وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي. To make sure that the letter Ain, sister, is not being recited soft, not abud. Otherwise, if you're saying abud, you are giving the sound of Hamza. It's supposed to be Ain. وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي. But again, whilst you are doing this, to make sure that the Ain is not being recited with the double pronunciation. And no So again, it's in the middle. Okay? وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. Bear that in mind, inshallah, my dear sister. Otherwise, a fantastic recitation. We swiftly move on to our next caller now, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum assalam, Ustadh.
How are you today?
Alhamdulillah. How are you, Ustadh?
Alhamdulillah. You may start when you're ready, please.
Inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وجاء من أقصى المدينة.
وجاء من, again, sister.
وجاء من أقصى المدينة.
So you need to bounce on that letter. وجاء من not أقصى. Okay, أقصى المدينة.
وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين. اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. صدق الله العظيم.
Barakallah fiqh. Jazakallahu khairan, sister, for your recitation. Now, sister, I want to look at a particular rule, which is known as qalqala. Okay, now you might know this, you might not, inshallah. It's for yourself and for everyone who's listening at home as well. Now, qalqala, for those who don't know, brothers and sisters, is a rule that it makes you bounce on certain letters, okay? Or it allows us to bounce on certain letters. And those letters are qaf, ta, ba, jim, and dal. Okay, those 5 letters. Now, here, brothers and sisters, it's the letter qaf, okay? Now, if those 5 letters have a sakina on top, like this qaf here, then we bounce on it. Okay? وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْ. Not أَقْصَل. This is a very common mistake. وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ. And not أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ. Okay? Important point, inshallah ta'ala. Overall, a good recitation. We now move on to our next caller. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. How are you, Ustadh?
Alhamdulillah, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
When you're ready, you may start, please, inshallah.
Inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وجاء من أقصى المدينة.
Again, sister, أقصى. وجاء من أقصى المدينة.
وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى
Again, if you could say that again, sister.
متبع
Sister, if you could say that again.
المرسلين
وَجَاءَ مِن.
وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل
مدينتي.
مدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا
يسألكم. ألكم.
يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد
Don't stretch the ya, sister. وَمَا لِيَ لَا
وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Jazakallah khairan, a good recitation, but a couple of things to keep in mind, inshallah, which will help you to improve your recitation, bi'idhnillah. Number one, وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ. Number one is to not do ghunna on the word min. Why? Because there is a nun sakina followed by the letter hamza, and this sister rule is known as idhar. Okay, idhar. وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ, and not وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ. That's incorrect. Okay. Number two is the letter jim. I want to focus on this letter here, sister. Now I want you to also listen to this, inshallah, and for everyone who listening as well. Now the letter jim, okay, is not the letter sheen, and nor is it in between. It's simply the letter jim, and it has its own qualities, its own makhraj. Now a common mistake that is reoccurring is where reciters are merging the letter jim to the letter sheen, which results in it becoming rajul. That's not correct. Okay, rajul, jim. Now what is the makhraj? How do we recite it correctly? To use the middle of the tongue, allow the middle of the tongue to lift up and to touch the palate at the top. If you say after me, aj, you should feel that. Okay, if you're not saying aj and you are not touching the tongue with the palate at the top, you are not reciting it correctly. Okay, so when you say وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى, make that clear, inshallah. Make sure you emphasize as well. We then move on to the word لا يسأل. We don't stretch the hamza, we don't stretch the lam. لا يسأل, not يسألوا. And lastly, the letter ya, sister. Now with the letter ya, we make sure that the letter ya is not being recited as hamza, not liya la, okay, وَمَا liya la, ya. Make sure you emphasize on that ya, inshallah ta'ala, okay? Do not change it into the hamza. Overall, a good recitation, but focus on these particular rules, please, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah bless you and reward you. Now, brothers and sisters, before we take on our next caller, just a small feedback to everyone, inshallah ta'ala, that when a feedback is given to yourself, you must make sure that you take it on board. Okay, not just to take it on board, but to make sure that you implement it in your recitation. A lot of times when we are given this feedback, okay, we are not implementing in our recitation. Okay, and then it results in our recitation not being corrected, okay, not being perfected. Because we're not taking on the feedback. So it's just a humble request to everyone that if you are reciting, inshallah, and if you are given a feedback, to try your best to take it on board and implement it, bi'idhnillah. We now move on to our next caller. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Ustad?
Alhamdulillah, yourself?
Alhamdulillah.
You can start when you're ready, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من الأقصى
وجاء من, there's no min here, sister.
وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين
اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Jazakallah khairan, sister, for your recitation. MashaAllah, a very good recitation. However, the letter ta. Okay, we need to emphasize on the letter ta. We need to make it full math. We need to make it clear. Now, we need to understand first and foremost that the letter ta is a full math letter, tafkhim. Okay, number two, it has the quality of isti'la. So it holds a lot of responsibility, a lot of weight. Now, if we say fata, we just defeated the purpose of these qualities and these rules. Okay, so again, we need to emphasize on this point. When you said وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَ, we don't say fata. Okay, fatarani. The next point is, sister, when you recited the letter dhal, a'udhu, we don't say a'uzu. This is a very common mistake and it's a major mistake. Okay, lahnul jali. Okay, so a'udhu billah, a'udhu. The tip of the tongue, if you look at it carefully, a'udhu. It needs to come out. Okay, not just come out, it needs to touch the top tooth, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. So those points, inshallah ta'ala, are for yourself, my dear sister. Again, try your best to take it on board and also practice them. Okay, bi'idhnillah. But overall, a very good recitation. From sisters, I'll see you after the very short break. Wa jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear respected brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the last and final segment of the show called Alif, Laam, Meem. For those who have just joined us now, we are reciting from Surah Ya Sin today, inshallah, from verse number 20 to verse number 22, inshallah. For those who want to get involved and you want to practice the Qur'an, you want to recite it correctly, perfect, inshallah, your recitation of the Qur'an, and also to make this a means for yourself to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then inshallah call us on 0203 515 0757, and if you live abroad, call us via the WhatsApp number. Inshallah, both the numbers are placed at the bottom of your screens, and we are also streaming live on our social media platform, Facebook and YouTube, inshallah. So for those who you think will benefit from the show, please inshallah share the link for you to inshallah gain your sadaqatul jariyah. We inshallah now take our caller. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
If you could come a bit closer to your telephone, please, inshallah. Can you hear me, inshallah?
Yeah.
Okay, so before you read, inshallah, get a bit closer and then recite when you are ready, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Barakallah feek, mashallah, a very good recitation. May Allah bless you and may Allah reward you and keep up with your hard work, inshallah. We move on to our next caller now, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Sister Razna, you are live in the studios. Assalamu alaikum. Sister Razna, assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me, sister?
Okay.
Inshallah. If you're ready, please begin with your recitation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Jazakallah khairan, sister, for your recitation. May Allah bless you and reward you. When you recited وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي, first the letter Meem, sister. Now with the letter Meem, it has the mad with it as well. وَمَا. Now when you're doing the mad, make sure that you don't change the makhraj. So not وَمَا, وَمَا. And the next thing is the letter Ain, sister. With the letter Ain, to make sure that you emphasize on the sound. وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي, and not أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي. We do not stretch on the letter Ain, and nor do we add a double pronunciation which gives the sound of qalqala. وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. So keep those points in mind, inshallah, my dear sister. Allah bless you and reward you. We move on to our next caller, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
MashaAllah, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well. How about you?
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khairan for asking. If you're ready, you may start, please, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العظيم.
Barakallah feeki. May Allah bless you, may Allah reward you, and keep up with your hard work, inshallah. The way you delivered today's recitation is very, very well, mashallah. May Allah bless you, reward you, my dear sister. We move on to our next caller, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sister, when you're ready, you may start, please, inshallah.
Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى
رجل, not رجل, don't stretch, sister.
رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا مرسلين.
Sister, you need to, you're stretching too much. If you could start that again, please.
رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين.
Not tabi'ul, tabi'ul. There's no stretch here, okay? So, قال يا قوم اتبعوا Gone.
قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين. اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا.
ألكم. Again, no stretching, sister. ألكم.
اتبعوا من لا
اتبعوا
من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون.
Again, sister.
مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي
Again, sister, if you could recite that again.
وما لي لا أعبد الذي
وما لي
لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. وإليه ترجعون.
Inshallah, very good recitation, mashallah, tabarakallah. When you recited وَمَا لِيَ لَا, sister, here you need to make the letter Lam clear, inshallah. Okay, we don't merge the letter Lam with any other letters. وَمَا لِيَ لَا. So here you said وَمَا لِي لَا. لِيَ لَا. Lam with the kasra, Ya with the fatha. وَمَا لِيَ لَا. The other thing is, sister, when you recited the letter Ra. Now the letter Ra has a tanween on top of it, okay? Now, when you have a tanween, okay, whatever letter it is, if it has a tanween on top of it or it has a noon sakin on top of it, there will always be a rule after it. Okay, this is a rule by default, okay? You will always have a rule after it. So whether it's ikhfa, idgham, idhar, you need to look always after it. So here, it's the letter waw after the tanween, and therefore you say ajran, and not ajran. Keep that in mind, inshallah. And lastly, when you recited certain words, again, there was stretching taking place, okay? Ittabi'u. We don't say tabi'u. Ittabi'u. So keep that in mind, inshallah. May Allah bless you and reward you for your efforts. We move on to our next caller now, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you, Ustadh?
Alhamdulillah, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
You may start when you're ready, please, inshallah.
Inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Jazakallahu khairan, sister, for your recitation, mashallah, tabarakallah. Now, to look at the letter ta. When you recited وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي, the letter ta. Again, the letter ta, sister, we need to emphasize it. Now, the reason to this is because the letter ta, if it's not recited with the full mouth pronunciation, very easily you can change it into ta. Okay, we can say fatarani if it is not recited correctly. And we don't want to do that, okay? Because again, there are a lot of reasons to why. Number one, changing the makhraj of the letter. Number two, the meaning. So, fa-ta. Now, how do we recite the letter ta as full mouth? Number one, we need to know that it is a tongue letter. Again, we don't use the lips, so there shouldn't be any sort of involvement of the lips. So, fa-ta, ta. The tip or the upper tip of the tongue should lift up and should touch the back of the top tooth. وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. Okay, so keep that in mind, inshallah, my dear sister. But overall, a very good recitation, mashallah. Let's move on to our next caller now, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. How are you today?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. And how are you, Ustad?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well, sister. When you are ready, you may begin, please.
Inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallahu khairan. Once again, another, mashallah, very good recitation from our dear sister. May Allah bless you. May Allah reward you for your efforts. Make this a means, inshallah, for you and your family to enter Jannatul Firdaus. Ameen. We move on to our next caller, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu rahmatullah wa Ustad.
Alhamdulillah, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
You can start when you're ready, please.
من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Barakallahu fiki for your recitation, mashallah, tabarakallah, a very good recitation. However, a couple of things, inshallah. Number one, sister, to recite a bit more slowly. Okay, now the reason to that is because when you recite fast, certain letters are not recited correctly. Okay, we overlook that. So inshallah, again, when you're reciting next or by yourself, to slow down the pace of the recitation. Number two is that when you're reciting, okay, there are certain letters that you need to look out for, sister. The letter qaf being number one. We'd say وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى أَقْ make it clear, make it heavy and do qalqala. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى يسعى. Number one, to make the scene clear, to recite it with the tongue, يسعى. And number two, the letter ayn, to make sure that the ayn is coming from the throat, okay, not the back of the tongue. Otherwise, you will end up changing the letter. So once again, وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى. Okay, barakallah feek wa ahsanallahu ilaykum. We move on to our next caller, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Hello, Islam.
Assalamu alaikum.
How are you, Ustadh?
Alhamdulillah, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
You can start when you're ready, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العظيم. السلام عليكم.
Wa alaikum assalam. Wa jazakillahu khairan, sister. So when we look at this ayah, وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. You have a mixture of letters. With that comes with a lot of different makhraj and a lot of different sifat. So in particular, when you recited وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي, two things. Number one is the letter ayn, to make sure that the ayn does not become hamza, not أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي, أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي. And the second thing is the letter dhal, to make sure that the dhal does not become the letter za. So وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. So make every single letter clear, okay, inshallah ta'ala. Overall, a very good recitation, sister. We move on to our next caller, inshallah, sister Khanam. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you today?
Alhamdulillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
Shayta, not shaytwan rajim, sister. Shayta.
شيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وجاء من أقصى المدينة
Bounce on, sister.
وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون.
Barakallah feek, sister, for your recitation. May Allah bless you and reward you. Now, the couple of important points. Number one, sister, is the recitation of your ta'awuz. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان, not shaytwa. Okay, do not move the lips. This is a very common mistake. Okay, shaytwa is incorrect. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Again, if you look at my lips, they're not moving at all when it comes to the letter ta. Once again, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. If you move your lips, it will change. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Completely different. Okay, so again, do not move the lips when you are reciting the letter ta. The next letter to be careful of is the letter qaf. When you recited وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى قَالَ, you said kala. This is a major mistake, lahnul jali mistake, okay? This is not minor mistake because you're changing the entire letter from qaf to kaf. وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى قَالَ. Okay, we don't say كَالَ. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اتَّبِعُوا. Not قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ. Completely incorrect, sister. So the way to recite this, now for yourself and for everyone at home, the way to recite the letter qaf is to use the back of the tongue. And this is where the misunderstanding is, that we do not use the throat. Qaf is not a throat letter. And this to clarify that qaf and kaf are not throat letters. They are tongue letters. Now where from the tongue are they recited? They are recited from the back of the tongue. Okay, so qaf is recited right from the back of the tongue. What happens is that it lifts up and it touches the palate at the top. Okay, so this is the back of the tongue. It will then connect. So you say, وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى قَالَ, not kala. So keep that in mind, inshallah, my dear sister. I hope everyone has benefited, inshallah, from this short explanation. May Allah bless you and may Allah reward you. Now, brothers and sisters, before we end today's show, inshallah, just a small feedback to our reciters and generally, inshallah, some advice and tips to those who are on this journey of learning the Qur'an. So first and foremost, a small feedback. MashaAllah, generally a very good recitation from everyone, and especially with those regular callers who are calling in, they've made a big improvement. And as you can see, MashaAllah, firsthand, that there are a lot of reciters who have recited throughout the months and maybe years on the show, MashaAllah, and have improved. Okay, so inshallah you can be one of those, but we need to first and foremost make an effort to pick up the phone and to recite, inshallah. And once you make that first call, and once you see the involvement, okay, of yourself with the Qur'an and the improvement of your Qur'an, you will have this, inshallah, this zeal to learn the Qur'an. So inshallah, make a start. Okay, it's never too late. Make a start, inshallah, however old you may be, whoever you may be, inshallah, make a connection with the Qur'an and ultimately with the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in terms of the recitation of today's reciters, very good. However, a couple of important points. Number one, again, is to make clear of these rules. Ra, okay, the letter qaf. For example, وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ. The sister who just recited right now, where the qaf was not heavy enough. Okay, the qaf was not heavy enough. So make sure that with the letter qaf, you are again using the tongue and making sure, and this is a rule with all the letters, that if you are not feeling the letter coming from that designated part, you are not reciting it correctly. And that's the rule. Okay, it's a very clear principle. So for example, the letter qaf is used with the back of the tongue, touching the palate at the top. If you are not using the back of the tongue, and if you're not feeling the back of the tongue touching the roof, you're not reciting it correctly, unfortunately. Okay? So bear that in mind, inshallah, with the letter qaf. The other thing is with the letter ra. وَجَاءَ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ رَجُلٌ يَسْعَى. Rajul. The word rajul consists of the letter ra, the letter jim, and the letter lam. So we must make sure, brothers and sisters, that when it comes to the letter ra, it is clear, it is heavy, it is full mouth, okay, in its conditions and with its conditions. Okay, if it has a kasra, it is not full mouth. If it has a fatha or a dhamma, it becomes full mouth, inshallah. So keep that in mind. The other thing is ittabi'u with the letter ayn. Be consistent with the letter ayn. At times there were some reciters who were reciting the letter ayn with qalqala. Some were reciting with the elongation of the letter ayn. Ittabi'u, or for example, abudu. Okay, that's an example. Abudu. It should be a'budu. So these things, inshallah, we need to keep in mind. And also, okay, one last feedback to everyone is when you are reciting, recite slowly. Okay, there were a lot of reciters who have given a fast pace to the recitation. Inshallah, this does have an effect on your pronunciation of letters. So this actually gives a perfect start to some tips and advice for those brothers and sisters who are trying to learn the Qur'an. Number one is, when you're reciting the Qur'an, have a moderate pace. Not too fast. Okay, again, if you're reading with tartil, that is fine. Okay, as long as you are implementing the tajweed rules. And this also goes to hadar. Okay, hadar is a bit faster recitation. But the best way for those who are learning the Qur'an is to recite in the form of tadweer. Okay, tadweer is the one in between hadar and tartil. So where it's a fast paced, yet it's still gentle, it's still soft. For example, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. It's not too fast and it's not too slow. It's in the middle. And this way, inshallah, your letters are clear, your pronunciations are clear, and you are given that melody, that tone to it, inshallah ta'ala. And the last tip is, inshallah, make an effort. Okay, you need to start from somewhere. Okay, if you're just sitting and you're not making the effort, then we're not going to improve our recitation. So make an effort, inshallah. Open the Qur'an, recite the Qur'an. You see your heart will open, inshallah. Your mind will open, bi'idhnillah. Brothers and sisters, we have come to the end of today's show, unfortunately. But inshallah, do tune in tomorrow on Eman Channel, inshallah, to recite in the show, practice bi'idhnillah, the next couple of surahs or the next couple of verses of Surah Ya Sin, inshallah ta'ala, where the teacher who will listen to your recitation provide you with that feedback bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Until next time, brothers and sisters, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to learn the Qur'an, to give us the ability to understand the Qur'an, to give us the ability to learn the Qur'an the way it should be practiced and the way it should be recited. Until next time, I leave you the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa jazakum Allahu khayran. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين